It was a bright, sunny day in Dallas, Texas. The date was November 22, 1963. President John F. Kennedy, Jacqueline Kennedy, an open-top limousine. They waved to the cheering crowds that lined the streets. It felt like a celebration, a moment of national pride. The young, charismatic president represented a new hope for America. People smiled and waved back, completely unaware that in a matter of seconds, history would be violently and irrevocably altered. No one in that crowd could have imagined the day would end in tragedy. Suddenly, the joyful sounds of the motorcade were shattered. A rifle shot echoed through Dealey Plaza, then another, and another. The president slumped over, his body struck by the bullets. Panic erupted as people screamed and ran for cover. The festive atmosphere instantly replaced by sheer terror and disbelief. The presidential limousine sped away toward Parkland Memorial Hospital. The world watched, holding its breath, as the first confusing reports began to trickle out. Was he okay? In the frantic hours following the assassination, law enforcement scrambled to find the person responsible. Their search led them to the Texas School Book Depository, a building overlooking the presidential motorcade's route. A rifle was found. Spent shell casings were discovered near a sixth-floor window. The investigation quickly zeroed in on an employee, 24-year-old Lee Harvey Oswald. He was a former Marine with a troubled and mysterious past. He had defected to the Soviet Union. He had connections to pro-Cuban activist groups. His profile was complex and drew intense scrutiny. "I'm just a patsy," he said as he was paraded through Dallas Police Headquarters. He insisted he did not shoot anyone, but the evidence was mounting against him. The rifle found in the depository was linked to him. He was also accused of murdering Dallas police officer J.D. Tippit. Before the nation could hear his full story in court, another shocking event unfolded live on television. 2 days after the assassination, while Oswald was being transferred from the city jail to the county jail, nightclub owner Jack Ruby stepped out from the crowd of reporters and shot him at point-blank range. Oswald was now dead. Any chance to stand trial to be cross-examined to reveal what he knew or his motives died with him. The event deepened public confusion and suspicion. Why was Oswald killed? In the wake of this national trauma, the new president, Lyndon B. Johnson, knew he had to do something to restore public confidence. He established a special presidential commission to investigate the assassination. It was led by the Chief Justice, Earl Warren. It became known as the Warren Commission. Its mission was clear: to conduct a thorough investigation and deliver a definitive account. The commission spent nearly a year examining evidence, interviewing hundreds of witnesses, reviewing countless documents. After 10 months, the commission released its final report, 888 pages. Its conclusion was direct and unambiguous. Lee Harvey Oswald, acting alone, had fired 3 shots from the Texas School Book Depository. He killed President Kennedy and wounded Governor John Connally. Jack Ruby, also acting alone, had murdered Oswald. There was no evidence of any conspiracy, domestic or foreign. The official story was set in stone. 2 lone actors were responsible. The report laid out a detailed timeline, analyzing the trajectory of the bullets. It presented the single bullet theory, the magic bullet. One bullet caused multiple wounds in Kennedy and Connally, zigzagging in a way many found hard to believe. The commission stood by its findings. For the government, the case was closed. The goal was to reassure a grieving public. But for many Americans, the report did not bring closure. It raised more questions than it answered. How could one man with mediocre aim fire a bolt-action rifle so fast and accurately? Why were contradictory witness accounts seemingly ignored or dismissed? Instead of quelling suspicion, the report fueled it, sparking a generation of critics and researchers who refused to accept the official story. The search for answers had just begun. Almost immediately after the Warren Commission published its findings, critics began to poke holes in the official narrative. Independent researchers, journalists, everyday citizens started their own investigations. They pointed to inconsistencies in the evidence, the mysterious path of the so-called magic bullet, conflicting witness testimony about the number of shots, and conflicting accounts about the direction of the shots. In Dealey Plaza, some witnesses swore shots came from a grassy knoll, not from the depository behind it. The government's handling of evidence raised red flags. Key pieces: the full autopsy report, certain classified documents, were kept secret for years, sometimes decades. When documents were released, they were often heavily redacted, paragraphs blacked out. That lack of transparency didn't inspire confidence. It suggested something to hide. For many, secrecy looked like a deliberate cover-up. That fertile ground gave rise to numerous conspiracy theories. Proposed culprits ranged from the mafia to Cuban exiles to elements within the U.S. government, the CIA or military leaders. Each theory pointed to different motives and actors, yet they shared one belief: Lee Harvey Oswald did not act alone. These questions aren't relics of the 60s. They persist today. Every few years, a new book, documentary, or declassified file resurfaces the case. The Zapruder film has been analyzed frame by countless experts. Was there a second shooter? Was the Warren Commission timeline even possible? The search for definitive truth has become a national obsession, a puzzle many feel remains unsolved. The assassination of John F. Kennedy and the controversial investigation that followed fundamentally changed America's relationship with its government. Before 1963, many Americans generally trusted their leaders and the institutions meant to protect them. The Warren Commission's report, intended to provide reassurance, actually had the opposite effect for a large portion of the population. It marked the beginning of a deep and lasting credibility gap. People started to believe that their government was not only capable of making mistakes, but also of hiding the truth from its own citizens. This erosion of trust would have profound consequences for decades to come. This newfound skepticism became a defining feature of the American psyche. It was further fueled by subsequent events like the Vietnam War and the Watergate scandal. The belief that powerful shadowy forces might be operating behind the scenes moved from the fringes to the mainstream. The JFK assassination became the ultimate case study for this worldview, a symbol of a moment when the official story just didn't seem to add up. It taught a generation to question authority and to demand transparency. Over the years, Congress passed laws forcing the release of millions of pages. The most recent batch was released as late as 2022. Yet, even with this flood of information, there is no single document that provides a smoking gun to definitively prove a conspiracy or completely exonerate Oswald. Instead, the documents often reveal more about the inner workings, rivalries, and paranoia of intelligence agencies at the time. They show that the CIA and FBI did withhold information from the Warren Commission. So here we are, more than 60 years later, and the questions still linger. Has the full story of what happened on that day in Dallas finally been told? Or are the most important secrets still buried in classified archives or in the memories of those who have since passed away? The assassination of President Kennedy remains more than just a historical event. It is an open wound, a mystery that continues to haunt the American imagination. Will we ever truly know the whole truth?